Hi everyone, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. Welcome back to my Christmas series. We are going to be having so much fun this year, and as always, I hope you enjoy the show. I got this cheese grater at the Family Dollar for $1, and I decided to go ahead and try to make it look like an antique. I saw a few things online which I thought were so cute. They're trending right now, the little cheese graters all decorated for different holidays. So I wanted to have a try, and $1 is a great deal. Now remember, the Family Dollar is also owned by Dollar Tree, so if you can't find these for $1 at the Dollar Tree, I've never seen this style of cheese grater there before, try the Family Dollar. So I'm starting off with pewter gray from Apple Barrel Paint. That's my favorite color to kind of start with. You just rub it all over and sponge it on to make the shine go away. So that's the first thing you want to do. Next, I'm using the color Nutmeg. For those of you that watch my channel, you know that Nutmeg Brown is the favorite for me from Apple Barrel Paint for faux rust. You can go ahead and you can do the cinnamon trick on this too if you really want to get into it. I'm just going to use the paint because I'm just looking to age it a little bit. And this is really something that takes practice. And if you make a mistake and you're not happy with something, you can always blow dry and paint over and then start again. You can see here I'm using my heat gun and I'm drying it to do the second step here because I'm going to go ahead and add black now. I try to add black on the edges of everything because that's where, when I've seen antiques, that's where they get darker, is usually on the edges. I don't know what happens there, if it's a form of oxidization. It's probably some kind of oxidization, but they get darker where there was heavy use. So I use the black for that, and then I'm still going over with the gray in places, painting over it, adding the nutmeg. This is definitely something, again, you do by eye. You just keep working with it and playing with it until you're comfortable with how it looks. And now we're going to use the hairspray trick again. Any hairspray should work for this. So you spray and you blow dry, or I'm using a heat gun, but either one will work. But you do it as you go. So as you're spraying, you're drying at the same time, and that's how you get that look. Next, I'm taking this ticking stripe ribbon I got from Amazon. The link is down below in my description box. It wasn't a bad price at all when I bought it. And this is my second time of buying this. And the first time I actually gave it away because we moved. I wasn't even halfway through it. It's a good deal for what you get. And I'm just gluing 2 loops together here. I'm showing you what I'm doing. I'm doing a slit on either side so that the twine fits in there nice. I'm going to tie it and then I'm going to puff these loops out. This is a 4-loop bow. I have a video called How to Make a Christmas Bow, and it's down below in my description box. If you're curious, it is time stamped. You can look up a 4-loop bow and it will be very, very similar to what I just showed you, only I'm looping these. I'm going to puff them out a little bit, but I'm going to be tying them onto the cheese grater. Now here's the rest trick for those of you that don't know. My Dollar Tree finally had some bells and Christmas things out, so I grabbed these bells. I painted them with the nutmeg brown. You can use just glue if you want, but I'm doing the nutmeg brown, and while it was wet, I sprinkled the cinnamon on, and that's it. And you get a really nice faux rust. And of course, you saw me saving the cinnamon. I dump it back in there for future uses. So now I'm adding some of the baker's twine on either one of these little bells here, tying it because we're going to be looping this around my little grater for sure. And I did put a little dot of hot glue on top of the knots so that that doesn't come out. For my last haul, I found these. I was so excited because they feel and look like wood. I went ahead and picked them up, and we're going to use this one today. Again, using the nutmeg brown, I'm going to go around with my little sponge Doppler there and sponge on this color and kind of paint over the top too a little bit. You'll see me kind of rub it. Again, you have to do it by eye, but you're just getting this tag to match the antique look so that it's in a theme, because we don't want like a really old cheese grater and then a brand new tag. So I'm trying to get everything to kind of be in a theme, and I'm adding hairspray again on the bells. Well, that was more to hold the cinnamon on. You just saw me lift it up. And here I've got a mix of black and nutmeg brown on my sponge, and I'm showing you how that made a really pretty faux wood for the back of these tags. No one's really going to see the back, but just in case, I made the back look like a faux wood grain. And I added a little black as well on these tags, and there's also a white bead that I'm kind of coloring with my little Doppler there. It's a mix of brown and black, but I'm just distressing everything so that everything matches. I'm going to go ahead and tie this tag on the cheese grater with the bells, and that's going to be one of my little embellishments that hang off. Next, we're adding the bow that I made. We're tying that on. I wanted to tie everything on and not glue. That's totally up to you, but I did that just in case I want to change it up for different seasonal decor. I thought it would be pretty for each season to decorate this cheese grater, or even just have it out as decoration plain, because that's also cute, I think, little antique cheese graters. But anyway, I'm just gluing some pine down, and then you can use this like a vase. So I'm sticking some pine down the center, adding a pine cone into the bow, because I wasn't really liking the way the loops were looking in the front. So I went ahead and glued that big pine cone in the middle. I'm adding some berries, and I'm trimming the pine. Do you see that? Because I cut those big pieces of pine up, the pick that you see I'm putting in right now, I cut those into little pieces, and obviously they don't always look like they're the end of the branch. You know how it's supposed to have that graduated little tip? So I go ahead and trim it in the graduated tip, and I'm adding some different pine in the back. Now I'm using a baby wipe, and I'm just adding some flocking to the pine cone and to the top of the berries here for just a little extra. And the last final touch is taking some more of the ticking stripe ribbon, twirling it kind of like a candy cane. Not a candy cane, but like those candy sticks. I think this was so perfect. Now I'm going to be careful and not glue it onto the cheese grater. Again, I want to have this up maybe all year with no decor on, change out the seasonal bows. So I'm gluing it on the inside of one of the bow loops, but it drapes down really pretty and creates a wonderful backdrop for the rest of the embellishment that's hanging to the left side. I think this came up so beautiful and unique. Let me know what you think. This is actually a cake pan. I thought it was a pie tin, so there you go. So here's my free printable on tissue paper. I will have the video down below in my description box and the starting point for where I give instruction on how to print on tissue paper. This is my favorite way to transfer because you really almost can't see it, and you can do really intricate things. Now, obviously if you stencil and things like that, it looks even better, but you don't get to print up the intricate designs. Like you could actually print landscape up on tissue paper and put it on there. I mean, it's amazing. And I will show you at the end of this video just how much you cannot see where it begins and ends. So I gave this a nice little roughing up with some sanding, and I'm just wiping off the dust with some tissue. I am choosing to use the Folk Art little cottage white chalk paint there because that one has stronger adhesion power than Waverly. That is definitely designed more for furniture. In fact, if I let it dry too long in my brush, it's really difficult to get out. So this is where you want to go if you're not going to use spray paint. Again, it was raining for me, so I didn't use spray paint. For me, I like it a little rustic, so I'm using the just paint. I like the brush marks this time, and the flag red in apple barrel paint. I chose to use a sponge to apply this to try and stay on the edge as much as possible. It's really hard with these cake pans, as it turns out, so I do have to go back after it's dry and just touch up my red a little bit where I felt like it went over the edge just a little bit too much. But if you're not too picky or you like things rustic, you don't have to do that. Here I am, I'm just going back and fixing it up a little bit because I did want this one to be pretty clean along the edges. As it turns out, my Corningware little tiny plate was the perfect template for the bottom of this cake pan. It fit perfect, and so I just traced it out, and we're going to cut it out. Now I went ahead and cut all the way through the cardstock because cardstock is not expensive, and I feel like I get a cleaner cut. I have more control that way. You don't have to do that. You can actually take the tape off and reuse your cardstock. Now I'm just trimming off here to make sure there's no pencil left behind, because obviously that will show a border I don't want. And there you go. That's how it fits in my pie pan. I think that looks so nice. I also always glue my tissue paper down half at a time because you center it and you hold it with your hand to make sure it doesn't move. It just gives you way more control. If you just put glue all over your pan and then try to put your image down, you will sometimes be very disappointed once it's stuck if it's not on straight. So it's always safer to put it exactly where you want it, hold it down, glue half of it, and then glue the other half. And by the way, the glue stick is the one I use because it guarantees there will be no bleeding with your ink, and there will be no bubbles or lines or anything when you press it down. You can always seal this with a mist of clear varnish. That's a good idea because if you just put Mod Podge on it, one, you will risk that it will wrinkle, and two, you will risk the ink will bleed. So to prevent that, you just mist it. And I do mean mist it lightly with a clear varnish. And then you can go ahead and do the Mod Podge if you want to, or you can just stop with a clear varnish. Now, some people mention hairspray. I did show you what hairspray does. It's not the most ideal. You can try it, but it could ruin your craft, and it does tend to yellow. So I just want to give you a heads up before you do it because I don't want you guys to get upset if your craft is ruined. It's a little riskier to use hairspray. I would definitely spray it on something you don't care about first to see how it's going to come out of its little spray nozzle. So now I'm adding some baker's twine, and I'm showing you if you want to do this with hot glue and you don't want the hot glue to show a whole bunch, you have to go super, super slow and careful, but I just thought that added a really cute border. And again, I have my Christmas decor in a little theme this year, so I'm kind of sticking with the theme. It's a little bit of that candy cane stripes and that little candy up in the right hand corner there, the peppermint candy. That's kind of what I'm doing this year. So I'm adding some pine with just a little tiny bit of hot glue. I thought that was pretty. And one of the little peppermint candies I got from Temu, super cheap. I think it was like $24 for $3, and that's it. And I think this came out so well. Now I'm showing you here so close that my camera actually is almost hitting the pie pan, but I'm trying to show you how you cannot see the edge of the tissue paper. When I say it vanishes into the paint, it even takes the shape of your paint strokes. So it's just a great way to transfer your images. But I think this came up so cute. I'm going to put it in one of those little plate stands next to my microwave when Christmas comes up. And I would love to know again what you guys think. For this project, you're going to need a Dollar Tree muffin pan, and I'm going to start by removing all of the paper off of here. I'm going to use the color Pewter Gray from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm going to take a little sponge brush and just start tapping it all over this muffin pan. We're going to try and make this guy look vintage and old. Right now he's looking too shiny and too dollar store-ish. So we're going to cover it with gray paint. That will take away the shine. That will also give it some natural variations in shades and hues, and we will start the aging process here. So I'm going to cover the whole pan, and then next I'm going to use the color Nutmeg, and I'm going to start adding some faux rust. That's also an Apple Barrel Paint, and it's my favorite color for faux rust when I'm not in the mood to use cinnamon. You can use cinnamon if you want to, but I can get the look close enough where it looks just as authentic and good without the cinnamon, and I don't always want to deal with the mess because sometimes cinnamon chips off or falls off and takes the paint with it. So totally your preference here. I'm just going to use paint. And next I'm using the color black. I'm actually using the color ink from Waverly Chalk Paint, but black will be just fine because this color is basically just black. And I'm just tapping it on here and there to add to the distressing look. For $1.78, I ordered 50 scrapbook stickers from Temu that were vintage, and that's what I'm using right now. I just chose some out of that pack, and I am taking some antique wax and just distressing the edges of these stickers so that they also look like they've been around for a while. But first we have to let them dry. So I'm going to take the color Plaster from Waverly Chalk Paint, and I'm just going to do a cloud-like little padding here to brighten up the bottom of my muffin pans, because when I put the vintage imagery down inside them, they disappeared. They're just too dark, and the pictures are so beautiful. I mean, they're straight up Oliver Twist type Christmas scenery and imagery. So I didn't want them to get lost in the darkness, and that made it so that I had to lighten it up a little bit with the lighter paint. But if you don't have this vintage imagery, you can go again to clip art, put in vintage Christmas, and it will give you lots of choices. You can also put vintage little gingerbread faces in there or snowman faces in there. There's lots of options, so use your imagination and have fun. Next, I'm taking the Dollar Tree black wire. It's very thin, so I doubled up on it. You'll see 2 loops there, but I'm going to use that as the hanger for my little muffin tin. I'm just putting it through the hole on the top and tying it, and that's it. Makes a really sturdy hanger. Then we're going to go ahead and add a bow and some embellishment. Now for this bow, I kind of made it like a 2-loop or 4-loop bow, but a messy bow at the same time because I wanted a bunch of different ribbon in there, so I included it in there to show you how I did it. I just glued loops together and then tied them all together so that I can puff them up like a floral bow, because this specific bow, I kind of made it up and it's not in my bow video. So I hope you understood it. If you don't, leave me a question down below in the comments and I will try to answer the best I can, but I'm leaving it in here so you can see what I did. I tied the center together with some more of the Dollar Tree black wire because it was very thick in the center and I chose not to make a cut or slit. So I just pulled it really tight with the wire and then attached it using the wire to the top of the wire hanger that I put on. Then I'm going to use some masking tape to attach some pine together and glue that in the back. And then we're going to get some more delicate pine. This is actually a fern. I think it was originally from Walmart. And it looks like, I don't know, I think it goes good with Christmas. It has that feel, so it passes. And I added that. And now I'm taking some more of this green trim that I got from Temu. I wanted to add that at the top. I added some berries. And as you can see, I added that distressed bell. That was also a great deal on Temu. I got those pre-distressed. They're already done. They come ready to go. And I think maybe a little bit more than the Dollar Tree, but it was a good deal. I'm adding some of the Dollar Tree lace at the bottom, and lastly here, some of the baker's twine. Now I do step back and look at this and decide that I feel like it's a little lopsided with the greenery there from the vine, like the vine ribbon or trim. I'm not sure what to call that on the right hand side. So I end up adding another loop to the other side to even it out and give it some symmetry. And we're all done. And I absolutely love this. You do need to spray it with clear varnish because it will chip off. I used acrylic paint, but I think it came up gorgeous. I'm using a Dollar Tree potato masher in this one and some school glue and some paint. So my objective here is to try and antique this so it doesn't look so brand spanking new and modern. And I'm doing that by adding some school glue on here just to give it a thicker look, like maybe many layers of paint were going to be painted on this handle over the years here to make it look nice because it got old, that kind of thing. So you'll see what I do. I'm using flamenco red, flamenco? I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but that's from Apple Barrel Paint. And I'm adding that on top. Now I did dry the glue all the way because I didn't really want this to crackle, although you could do that. You could do a crackle, but I wanted it to look more antiqued, and I feel like that's a little bit of a different look. So I go ahead and I dry the paint just to see if a tiny bit of crackle will come through. And then I take the back end of a paint stick here. You could use a skewer, anything like this to scrape it off. And you're just kind of removing the paint here and there to make it look the best you can vintage. After this, you'll see me take some white paint and dry brush it, which I will end up kind of using a baby wipe to remove some of that. I want it to look like it had more than one layer of paint. So hopefully I achieved that. I think it looks really good at the end. You'll have to let me know what you think. Then I take pewter gray from Apple Barrel Paint and I just sponge it on all over to kind of calm down that shine on the metal. That's a really common thing that I do with all of my DIYs. When the metal's too shiny, I just use a little bit of paint to make it look matte and more flat. so it's not so shiny. Then I'm taking the color Nutmeg Brown. It's my favorite one to use for rust, and I'm going to show you the effect you get up close. It's still wet, but that's what it looks like, and I think it looks really good considering it's just paint. You can go ahead and add a little bit of cinnamon too if you want to level it up. So now I don't want that to chip off, so I go ahead and take some watered down Mod Podge, spray it on just so I can keep working with this and not have to worry about it chipping, and I show you what it looks like up close right there. And then I'm taking some of the Spanish moss. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down the best I can on top of this. And I'm using a Dollar Tree cutting mat for these crafts. That is a really great thing to use because it's cheap, easy to clean. The hot glue even peels off of it. So that's what I've been using lately, and I've been really happy with it. So now I'm going to give this a little trim, and then I'm going to use some of that watered down Mod Podge and spray it on top just like this. You know, just to kind of help. I don't want the moss to be falling off. I'm planning on leaving this up through winter. This is also winter decor for me. So now I'm putting some of the Dollar Tree snow on top, and after that dries, I put another spray of the Mod Podge. I just didn't film it. And these I got from Temu. They're so cute, the little deer. Because I'm making this to put up for Christmas and leave it through January, I went ahead and used like more of a winter scene and just winter colors, but you could use snowmen, Christmas trees, Christmas houses, Santa, whatever you want. So I'm gluing the deer on top of these little wood rounds so that they don't tip over, and they're I'm using them like a riser, so they kind of have the ability to rise these guys up. And then I'm using some of the miniature trees from the Dollar Tree. I put pine in there, some berries, and some little bells from Temu. I'll hold them up here. They're so cute. Everything was super cheap from Temu that I bought last year for Christmas. It's definitely worth checking out for just seasonal decor. Then I'm tying some ticking stripe on the top. I'm going to take a little snowflake and glue it on top of the ticking stripe. Then I decided that these trees were like a weird color green. They weren't really matching the other pine in there, so I tried to put more snow on them, but I loved how this came out. Let me know what you guys think. Oh my gosh, this is a totally fun project. I'm using air dry clay for this, but full disclosure, this stuff is really hard as a rock until it warms up, and it takes a pretty long time for it to warm up, so it was difficult to work with. And I would highly recommend that you guys check out my video on faux wood beads. I use a salt dough recipe. It was a huge hit in the day because those wood beads had just come out and they were stupid expensive. So this was a way you could make them for pennies on the dollar. They looked awesome, and it does dry out. It will dry out in the air. It may take a little bit longer, but you know, I wasn't in any hurry. I can have this little thing that I made sitting on my shelf for a year if that's how long it takes to dry out. It doesn't take that long, but I meant if it did. But I think it would have looked more real because it uses flour, and of course flour is like real, that's what real pie crust is made out of. So we are making a little pie today, or a tart, whatever you want, and I thought this little dish from the Dollar Tree would be perfect. And so after I finally got some decent, you know, I was rolling there and it finally came out decent, I thought, you know what, we're just stick it in here. And at first I thought, I'm just going to do the sides because you're not going to see the bottom. We could save the clay. And I thought, Holly, you don't want to save the clay. You don't like the clay. You don't want to work with the clay again. You don't even want to rebuy it. You don't. So plus it was drying out. I had opened it a while ago. So I thought, nope, we're just going to go ahead and pull, you know, make this like you make your pies, like your real pies. And you're going to put the whole thing inside there. So because I said it was drying out, the edge there was already kind of drying out. I tried to do a pie crust on the side, that pretty fluted edge, but unfortunately it was too dry. So I decided to take some fresher clay from deeper down in the package and just roll it out in strips. You can see the strips up at the top there, and you know, press that down in little segments. And that tool from the Dollar Tree there that you can see, there's like 3 plastic knives that come. They're probably for working with clay or maybe spackling. I don't know, but they're turning out to be an excellent craft. like essential. So 3 for $1.25, you can't beat that. And I'm using it to press down because it's definitely easier than your fingers. And I felt like since this was like a mini version of a pie or tart, the fingers were just too big. So that made those pretty little fluted edge. And if you mess up on the corners, you just cut that part off or smush it back a little bit and get a nice clean edge for the next segment of clay that you put in. And just in case anyone is wondering whether or not the salt dough attracts ants, no, it does not. They don't like salt in your cupboard, and they don't like that either. So there I go right there with my last little segment, and you can see that I'm aiming to put the edge of the dish in the middle of that strip so that the crust drapes over on the sides and drapes over inside the dish equally so that it looks more real. And I'm finishing it off. Now I'm just patting it around the edges so that it's nice and even and circular. And then I'm taking a Dollar Tree knife. This is an actual knife from Dollar Tree. And I'm just trimming off any excess and evening it out so that it looks nice along the edge. The reason I told you to put the little fluted edge halfway down the side and halfway on the side on the inside is because it looks more real that way, I guess. So that's how I recommend you do it rather than just sitting it on the edge. Plus, if it dries out, it might cave in. So if you have it flopping over the edge there, you don't have to worry about that. This is my first time working with the clay, so I wasn't sure. And now I'm going to the really moist clay right here. We stopped messing around. I went to the very end where the package was still covering it, and I'm cutting really thin slices. And I'm going to be using that for the top of this, but I'm going to set it aside for now. I'm just cutting it to get it ready. I put all of that inside a bag so it doesn't dry out. And then I'm going to take, yes, I'm holding a brush in my mouth. I use every tool I have at my disposal when I'm crafting. This is the color beige and khaki from Apple Barrel Paint, by the way. That's the mix that I did. And if I added some more beige, it would have been, I think, even more perfect now that I see it on film. Don't get me wrong, I love the way that this came out, but I can see, like with anything else in life when you're doing things, what you could have done differently next. You know what I will do, I'm going to make some more of these. They're so cute. What I could do differently next time. So here's the cherries. I bought these at Temu last Christmas. I went to look for dried cranberries on Amazon, cherries, anything. I couldn't find anything on Amazon, and I couldn't find anything at the Dollar Tree either, but in the past I have seen the Dollar Tree carry grapes. You could absolutely buy those and paint them, or sometimes they might be the right color red and it would just look like a cooked, well, I wanted red because I'm doing this for Christmas. I wanted it to be festive, but depending on what you want, the grapes would absolutely work. You could use a little bit of maybe a pool noodle or that floral foam, cut them in like wedges and paint those to look like apples, probably using the same color I'm using here. The mix of these two colors, that would probably make a nice apple piece if you wanted to make an apple pie. Totally up to you. That would be cute for fall. I've seen those for fall. That would be totally cute. I don't know if I've seen anybody use foam that you paint like that, but if you actually cut it out to look like real apple wedges, put a little bit of like burnt umber around the edge so they look like they're baked apples. Oh my gosh, that would be, with cinnamon on them, that would be so cute as a pie or a tart. But anyway, I am just putting these cherries in so that they're in place. And then I decided to dribble my Mod Podge down, making sure it ran all the way to the bottom. And I just did it in different layers to make sure, first I checked to make sure I had enough cherries, because obviously you would have to add something at the bottom of the pie to lift them up if you did not. Now I'm just adding the Mod Podge all the way just to hold everything in place. So I just flashed a quick glimpse of the glitter and some Epsom salt there. That's what I'm going to put on the top of this pie. You don't have to do this. I just thought it would look a little bit more real. In hindsight, if I had to do it again, I would absolutely use just regular table salt, because when I make my pies, I just use regular sugar. I don't use the rock, like crystal sugar. And to buy the faux one, it's very expensive, and I always try to keep everything cost effective for you guys. That's why I recommend the salt dough, because it would be pennies, and I recommend salt and cinnamon. Just rub some cinnamon on that crust, all around. You could use paint if it's not dark enough. If anybody, watching today has tried the cinnamon trick with like the clay or the salt dough, let me know how it came out, if it worked for you, if it was dark enough, if it made it look like it had been cooked in the oven. But today we are definitely just sticking with the nutmeg brown to do that. So I did have to paint the edge again because I decided to put a little lattice top on top of this because I thought that would look so adorable. So those strips that I saved in my little bag that I told you guys about right there, I'm now working with them and cutting them to make that little lattice top. And so since I already have grooves, like the little fluted edge that I spoke about earlier on the sides, those are already starting to dry and become kind of hard. So the way I handled that is just to blend the dough, or not the dough, the clay, into the little pre-existing groove and just make it super, super thin and attach it that way and just make it all become cohesive. You'll see it in a bit. Just make it all come together. You can see it right there. That's what I'm doing. And it was a kind of a long process, so I'm speeding it up just so you can see it. If you need to slow it down, you can actually adjust the speed on YouTube videos to whatever speed you want. You can speed me up, you can slow me down, whatever you need, but I'm just putting it there in case somebody does need it. But that's all I'm doing is just, and I'm using water. I'm dipping that little tool inside some water to the right. That helps spread the clay kind of thinner so that it just disappears into the already pre-existing fluted edge and looks awesome. So now I'm taking more of that khaki and beige and I'm adding it to the top. You know, we're finishing painting this to make it look obviously like a pie crust. So this is definitely a work in progress because it hasn't dried all the way yet, so I can't really seal it with a clear varnish or a polyacrylic, and I can change things. And I feel so blessed to have YouTube because I do actually have a YouTube family where I can ask you guys what you think. So please leave a comment down below. Do you think I should paint it lighter? Try the cinnamon trick? Do you think I should not add, like right now I'm adding the nutmeg to make it look kind of toasty? But even with all this, and I'm not bragging, but so far I feel like this is the best one I've seen online, and maybe that's because I made it to look like the pies that I actually make in real life, so I can relate to it. It just looks real to me, and I think it's absolutely adorable. A highly recommended craft, so cute. I don't know if I want to add some Christmas ribbon on the dish. Again, would love your feedback, maybe some holly and berries or just a holly leaf on top, just to make it look more Christmassy. But we're just cleaning off the paint with a baby wipe and some leftover clay. That's it, and we're all done. And I didn't add these to this video, but here's a snowman out of Dollar Tree stovetop covers, a snowman out of the splatter screen, and a cute little gingerbread man on top of a Dollar Tree baking tray. So be sure to check out my other Christmas videos, and if you enjoyed this video, here's some more videos I think you'll enjoy too.